Hey there, you, me, and DC fans, and welcome if you are new. I am the stepson of Krypton,
And I'm Mantis.
and today we are going to be discussing Avengers 5, the socially acceptable dynasty. No, just kidding. We don't know what it's called yet, but there's been
It
some.
was Kang Dynasty, but yeah.
It was the Kang dynasty. However, that Kang chose to beat his wife, and we don't know what's going to happen with it. You know,
Alabama man.
When wife asks him where he's been, just use the action button and Alabama man busts her lip open.
Shut up, bitch!
right? I mean, what are you gonna do if she kind of like steps out of line, or she, doesn't make you a sandwich?
Make daddy a sandwich.
You gotta do what you gotta do. However, how it impacted the Marvel movies and where we go from here, I may have to cut that. I don't know. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll leave it in. It is definitely going to impact what's going to happen with the next Avengers movie, and we are going to get on into that discussion before we get canceled.
Yeah. It may happen anyway, guys. But yeah, let's discuss what's gonna happen here.
All right, guys. Now, as being a predominantly DC channel, we don't like to forget our Marvel fans. As you see me wearing X-Men here, love me some X-Men '97. We do like to go ahead and discuss Marvel, especially what is happening with the current state. What I mean primarily is everybody knows the next Avengers movie was going to be Avengers 5, the Kang Dynasty, right? Well, with everything had been happening with Jonathan Majors and his recent convictions, that is no longer the case. Now, I said in a previous video, I had caught some footage, and I promise you guys, I saw it. It existed. I'm not, at least in this situation, I'm not crazy. I can't speak for other times, but I'm not crazy. But they had Avengers 5. It was Avengers versus X-Men, right? I thought it was fucking awesome. That's why I got my X-Men shirt on. I have not been able to find that that's the case. That may have just been fan made, and it drugged me in. But I can't even find it fan made now, right?
There's some convincing fan made ones that've gotten me before I get halfway through, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I know, you sons of bitches. And this is like one of those just, kind of announcement like things, like where you only get to see the logo of it. But we don't know what the next Avengers movie is going to be called. However, we do know a little more information about the plans for the next two Avengers movies. And Mantis, do you kind of want to walk us through a bit of that?
Yeah. Well, I saw a recent article report because, as everyone knows, the Deadpool Wolverine movie coming out here that I think we're both in agreement that this is probably going to be one of the biggest MCU films that they've had in the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Like even though it's going to be rated R, it's probably going to be one of the. I guarantee it'll be the highest rated one. It may not. The money may not make it. I don't know. Depending on, I haven't even seen how much it costs to make, but I don't know. Right now, it's real weird with the box office and people going to see movies. But I think as far as entertainment value, as far as story and everything, I think this is probably going to be one of the better movies MCU's put out in a long time. So, but anyway, the director, Sean Levy, has reportedly been offered a fifth Avengers movie, and out of that. There was a little, I don't know if you want to call it a little quip, a little side thing that someone may have mentioned, let slip, that it's going to involve 60 characters spread across 2 of the films. Because you said 2, right? We're going to do, if we say the King Dynasty Avengers 5, but then also that involves Secret Wars, right? So, man, that's wild if it's true. Like, that is wild.
Now, obviously they're putting a lot of backing behind the Deadpool Wolverine movie, right? This is kind of Marvel's comeback, right? This is their answer to all of the criticisms and things that have been happening of late with the current movies and their success or lack thereof, right? So with the Deadpool Wolverine, I do believe that it is going to, first off, we've wanted to see this since we saw it back in X-Men Origins Wolverine, where we saw that atrocious version of Deadpool. However, we did like when he was Ryan Reynolds still. That was funny, but it wasn't Deadpool, right? So we've all wanted to see him and Hugh Jackman. They've been having their Twitter feuds jokingly. They're good friends. and all that. So we're all excited to see it. We're excited to see Wolverine in the new suit. So I feel like it's Spider-Man No Way Home level. Like it's going to be that good in comparison, because when you think about it, you had Endgame, really the only other big one was Spider-Man No Way Home. Like yeah, there's been some other, but like mostly bullshit. And now you're going to have Deadpool Wolverine. It may not do in the box office numbers because of the R rating, but I see it going over a B, right? Whereas the original Deadpool and Deadpool 2 went 800, well, it was like 700 something million. I could see this one's going to go over a billion, right? But what it is doing is it is setting up, and what's basically kind of leading from Deadpool to this next Avengers movie to the follow-up Avengers movie that we're talking about, is that everything's leading up to Secret Wars. And the thing is, Secret Wars is there's been multiples, but let's stick with the original in the comics. Well, the first one, because there's Secret Wars 1, 2, and 3. So for the first Secret Wars, it is a massive crossover event. It's what brought the Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and the Avengers all together, right? It was a massive crossover. And it is a ballsy thing to do for a movie, right? Especially since your franchise has been so fragmented.
Yeah, I mean, in like reportedly, again, at least for the event, the King Dynasty, like again, I don't know what it's called at this point. I don't know if they're rewriting it. I don't know if they're obviously we're going to recast Kang if they're going to keep him in there. But some of the reported stars that are going to be in the mix for that: Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Hiddleston. Just some of them going to be in that movie, and then again, like, is this just like a I don't want to call it like a Hail Mary, but is it like a Hail Mary that they're just trying to double down on the event, like Endgame having because there were a lot of characters in that film, but now you're talking to like double that over the course of these next two movies. One, is it a Hail Mary to try and bring people back into theaters and get excited about this? I'm not saying that may work. It may work. But like, how is that feasible as far as paying these actors? This is not like no-name actors here. These are the stars of the MCU. They've been there for years. Like, how are you paying them enough for this? And if this flops, they're in big trouble. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying if it does, and you're going to put all these characters in there with all these actors, like how is that even a thing? You know what I mean?
I think the thing is, and that's where I feel like you're spot on with the term, that's doubling down, right? You are putting forth double the money to hopefully get a bigger prize at the end. And I know that's not the exact specific poker term. I'm just basically saying in this instance, right? Because for Infinity War and Endgame, they were shot simultaneously. They were shot back to back, but you paid the actors for the two movies, right? And I mean, they spent more in just casting than other movies have spent their entire budget. And I'm talking, hundreds of millions of dollars to get casting. And for Secret Wars, there's talks of Robert Downey Jr. coming back and Chris Evans coming back as Captain America, right? Again,
Black Widow.
And
you can totally do that. As much as I hate the idea of that, but the fact is, when you're going to bring all these characters in, like you said, for Secret Wars, there's variants of those characters out there. Even though, Natasha's dead and Iron Man and Tony Stark is dead, there has to be those variants out there in the different universes, right? Because as we've discussed in a previous video that we did, the Secret Wars involves who?
The Beyonder.
Who has the power to do all of this crazy shit, even bring characters from multiple universes in there. I know it's, it is what it is. I don't like it, but I'm not saying... Go ahead.
Here's what I'll give you. I will allow it one time. I am not a fan. Like, now, with Chris Evans playing Captain America, okay, because we saw one variant. He didn't die. He just went back and lived a life. But, like, with Tony having that very, traumatic, very impactful death at the end of Endgame, I would allow you to have him come back for Secret Wars as a variant of something. If for me, Secret Wars is it, right? Then you reboot. Like crescendo here, do Secret Wars, but then we end the multiverse. Like we're done. Oh well, so and so died, but then we'll just go get a variant of him 2 movies later from another universe, right? End it. Like just
Yeah.
it be done. Now you're in the prime universe for Marvel. Like this is it. But we have X-Men, we have Fantastic Four, we have everybody's within the same universe, but end it. Okay, no more, like at that point, no more variants. I'll give it to you for Secret Wars because the Beyonder is immensely powerful and able to do that and can traverse universe. Well, technically can exist in all the universes at once, basically, but I'll give that to you. Have a badass ultimate showdown, but then be done with the multiverse.
That's to me where this is going to fall flat, because I think we're not far removed from Endgame. We're not far enough removed from Endgame to again have this massive battle where all these characters show up and do the thing, right? Like to me, it feels like it's still. I mean, I know it's been several years since Endgame, but to me, it still feels like it's like, I don't know, it just feels like it's too close to do that type of thing again. And if that's the case, you would want to make Secret Wars like its own phase, quite frankly. Like that's the way I would do it, but they don't have the money to do that. There's no way they have the money nor the audience clout investment to drag Iron Man and all these characters through 4 or 5 movies again to again crescendo up to this big fight scene at the end of a section of a phase of Secret Wars. I don't understand how it's going to succeed either way, but that's just me.
I think the problem is when you think about Endgame, right, and you think about the rest of the original phases of movies, is when we had the first Avengers movie, we had movies coming out constantly, right? We had Captain America movies, we had Thor movies, we had all this, right? And they were great, and they helped advance the plot, and they led into the next Avengers movie, and so on and so forth. I think after Endgame, like I said, you had Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, you had WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness, or WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness. You had a couple of little bullshit movies here and there, but there was not a lot of like your core Avengers leading the storyline that continued on to your next Avengers movie. So that's why I feel like what you're saying is 100% accurate. Like Endgame doesn't feel like that long ago, even though it was, because we haven't had a lot carry on the story, right? So you're going to jump from Endgame to maybe Spider-Man, if you want to call it, maybe the Marvels, and all this shit, but you don't have a whole lot else. And then you have Ant-Man Quantumanium or whatever it was, and all this stuff. Like, you don't have a lot great propelling it. And then it's like, oh, you had all this great lead up to Secret Wars. It's like, oh yeah, you had kind of a bunch of bullshit, and then we're gonna make the Kang Dynasty, or what was at once the Kang Dynasty. Now we gotta struggle with this to get you to Secret Wars, right? So it seems, it's very close. Like,
it doesn't seem like there's it doesn't seem like a winning. I don't see how you win in this case. Again, like for me, it feels too close to End Wars to have another movie that is a crescendoed, everyone let's band together and battle this guy. It's bringing everyone, right? Like it's too close, and then it feels like there's not enough money and there's not enough audience investment that they care enough that they're going to stick around for another 3 or 4 movies of a phase. Nor do I think that's what they're going to do. Like, ideally, that's what you would want to do to avoid the whole we're too close to Endgame, right? You want to put enough of these movies strung together in a Secret Wars phase to feel like you can make it up at the very end, instead of just arriving there with after Kang and then boom, Secret Wars. Oh, we're fighting, it's everyone together, right? You don't want to do that. You want to make the introduce people, bring everyone together. They don't have the money. There's no way to do it.
And the thing is, if you think about the original Avengers, right? Everybody basically had one movie, and then they did Avengers. Now I know, like Iron Man had a second, but they did Avengers, and then everybody else pretty much got another movie, and then they did the next Avengers, right? Well, you don't have that, right? So you're going to release Avengers and the socially acceptable Dynasty, and then that's a placeholder. We don't know that that's what it's going to be called, but that's what it's called in my head. That's what it's going to be called in my head. But you're going to release that, and then what do you have in between that and Secret Wars? Like, what is your plan? Right?
Yeah.
And I get,
Is it going to go
guys,
directly after?
I'm not saying I've seen the damn Marvel, like what their plan is. What I'm saying is that's going to make sense and actually make people are going to watch, right?
In practice, yeah. Is that going to actually work? Do people give a shit? Do they care enough? I don't know, man. To me, it's a weird thing to do.
The weird thing is you now have all of the rights to your characters. So you got Fantastic Four, you got X-Men, you've got you're still working on Spider-Man a little bit. There's still a little bit of struggle,
yeah.
but Sony's working with you, man, because they're getting some money out of it, right? They're trying, right?
They're getting smoke with Madam Web. It's gonna. And I know there's a new there's a new Venom movie coming out, I think, or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sony doesn't know what the hell they're doing either.
My thing is, you're getting the rights to all your characters. Like, I feel like, and you lost Robert Downey Jr. He wanted to retire. He even doesn't said, and we've talked about this multiple times before. For those of you new, I'll cut in a couple of scenes here. But he's even talked. He does not want to come. Like, he feels like his death should mean something, and he doesn't want to come back.
Starting up again is off the table. I feel I've done all I could with that character. There'd have to be a super compelling argument and a series of events that made it obvious to it. But the other thing is, I want to do other stuff.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you throw enough money at somebody, they're like, fuck it, yeah, sure. Yeah. He was making $50 million at the end of those movie deals, right? So who wouldn't, right? Like, yeah. I'll come back as fucking Iron Man for fucking, a tenth of that.
I'll be in a wheelchair.
Right?
Do it, right?
I'll shave my head bald. I'll be Professor Xavier. It can't be as good as Patrick Stewart, but I'll try. But, but what people will do for money. So, yeah, like people, they may be able to get them back, but you kind of have a perfect time to reboot, and you're not going to take it. You're going to launch into what is going to be the biggest cinematic showdown ever. Because, one thing that happened with the DC side real quick is when we look at the Crisis on Infinite Earths, okay, that is a major, major story in the DC universe. You brought that on a goddamn network. It was on a CW television show, right, that had the balls to say, hey, we're going to release Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I liked it, man. I'm sorry. Hate on me all you want. I don't give a fuck. If for a network that had their issues, but you already launched Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Blacklight. You had launched all these. You brought them into this massive crossover. It took some fucking balls, and I feel like they pulled it off as well as you can from a television show. Okay, Endgame.
Well, they didn't have the faith that the studio could do it in movie form. That's why they did it on TV. Right?
I don't have the faith that you guys could do it in studio form. Or
a movie, yeah.
I don't have the faith that you can do it in movie form, and I kind of don't have the faith that you're going to be able to do Secret Wars in movie form. It is ballsy as fuck, and right now, you have not instilled a lot of confidence in me based off your last few movies.
My thing is, leave this be. Just don't even fuck with Avengers 5 and Secret Wars right now. What you need to do is what they're kind of doing with Fantastic Four, even though I think they're going to fuck it up. Do something with Fantastic Four. Do something with X-Men. Make it great. Make X-Men what it should be. And, do the whole, the mutant side of the MCU, right? Go into that. I mean, and X-Men's been in several different crossover, if you want to call it that, in other films and other storylines in the MCU. You could totally do that. I just think they should use that because, again, and maybe it's just because we're big X-Men fans. I think it's a perfect opportunity for it, and I know that there's not a lot of on paper support, but I think realistically the reason why X-Men 97 didn't do as well is, quite frankly, because it's animated. In animation, it never does well. It never does. You can look at all of it. It never does well.
What metric are you tracking? Because Rotten Tomatoes score, it was damn near perfect.
No. Yeah. I'm not talking about the critic score. I'm talking about eyes on it, like actual people watching it. It's really low. But that doesn't necessarily matter because it's animation. You're never going to get as many eyes on animation as you will, live action stuff. It's just never even. It doesn't matter how good it is because like we discussed this with DC. DC's animation is amazing. Like it is really it's actually better than their live action shit. It just is. Their animation's fantastic, but it doesn't.
He's not
people just
wrong.
don't watch it. Yeah, people just don't watch it because it's animation. They just have a fucking cartoon, right?
Well, I think the problem is you played to the nostalgia of X-Men, the original cartoon, X-Men cartoon, the 90s cartoon. So that works for guys like us that remember and love but we're also like, you're not quite, but I'm in my 40s, right? Like, animation isn't a thing that like for most guys that are married with kids, you're like, dude, maybe if you can get your kids involved, but like your wife could be looking at you like, are you watching a fucking cartoon? Like, like
a bowl of fucking Captain Crunch too here,
Don't do Captain Crunch. It cuts the roof of your mouth.
Why should I kill this Count Chocula?
Because that son of a bitch has been spreading lies. My cereal does not cut the roof of your mouth.
It's fine.
Still love it though. But I think that's the problem, right? It's like, okay, yes, the cartoon is great and you're appealing to the nostalgia, but the people that watched the cartoon in its original form are now in their 40s, and it's like, well, fuck, dude, I don't want to watch an animated thing, especially when you have the movies coming out. So yeah, I think, but it's done great, right? X-Men, even X-Men 97, it did great because that they held true to what made us love it in the beginning. And my problem is, again, you have this new Avengers movie coming out. Well, most of your core Avengers are gone. I don't know if Crimson Hemsworth's going to keep playing for, but most of them are gone, right? You haven't established who the new Avengers are yet in their own sets of movies. Wanda's even gone, or supposedly gone after Wanda, the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. Chris Hemsworth's probably going to be your only original Avenger, maybe Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. Like, who are your new Avengers? Like, why are you wanting to start like Avengers, the Kang down? Like, we need to go back to Avengers, the new beginning or something, right? And establish this new group that's going to carry us through Secret Wars. And then if you want to go into Secret Wars, be like, oh, hey, and we're also, it's like Power Rangers, right? We're also bringing back the old shit when we've proved the new shit doesn't work, right? Then you bring back the old, then you bring back the original Captain America as far as MCU, original Iron Man. You do that kind of thing for Secret Wars. But you haven't established this new universe yet after losing everybody.
Yep, I agree. There's not enough time. You can't do that in one fucking movie. You can't.
Well, and the problem is,
there's no
way. In the original MCU, we didn't do it in one movie, right? I say we, like I made the fucking thing. But it wasn't set up like that. It was a plan spanned over many movies. And now I feel like, and it's kind of... I know I'm going to catch hate for it. I don't give a fuck. But like with Captain Marvel, we talked about it was a shit movie. But also the problem was what made it a shit movie is it was very out of place, right? You had a very established timeline, and then you just threw this movie in what seemed to be a grab. Yeah, second movie in line.
It's like a second movie in chronological order of the MCU, right? Like,
but you threw it in. It made no sense. It fucked with the timelines. People fucking hated it, but you did it, and what seemed like for not great reasons, right? And it's like, don't do that. That's the whole point with Marvel. That's what separated you from DC. Is you had a plan, and it was working very well. Okay, and you also got to see what DC did that fucked up, right? Like, oh damn, they tried to copy us, but then they tried to go rogue, and it fucked up, right? And then you went and did the same fucking thing.
Well, here's the thing again, and we're not going to get into the Star Wars aspect of this, but as we have seen with Disney Star Wars, I have no faith in Disney controlling this IP. It's where IPs go to die, So nothing would surprise me at this point, quite frankly, with what they do. So
I just feel like 60 characters is final thoughts here, right? I feel like 60 characters, because that was what they claimed, is we're going to have 60. Now, you figure in Endgame, it is, but in Endgame you had 30, right? And you made it work because you had to separate them. In Infinity War, you separated them onto multiple locations, right? It's kind of like when you get to that point in the quest and you got to select your team, and then your other people get split off into their own parties. You don't know what the fuck's going on with them, right? That's what happened. and then you brought everybody back, but look, you only could do it at the very end, like the last 10 minutes where you had everybody and you were struggling to make it work, but it worked because those characters were already established. Bringing back rumored 60 people for these next two Avengers movies, I feel like it's not going to play out the way you think it's going to. It's not going to have the effect that Endgame and Infinity War had.
No, not to mention, what 60 characters are you gonna do? Like, holy shit!
Well, if you say Endgame / Infinity War, let's say Endgame, because that's where you had the main people, right? You had 30, right? Well, then you bring in the X-Men, you bring in another 10 at minimum. So there's you 40, and then you bring in the Fantastic Four, I want to say 4, but let's just round you up to an even 5.
You're going to have villains too, right? Probably the more popular villains will be in there. There's a couple more, 6 or 7. I mean, I get it. It's just, again, it's like, okay, let's say you bring in ones that people are familiar with that are just not like no-name people. There's no backstory or anything to any of them to give them credibility or to have the audience give a fuck.
Well, I feel like, let's say you bring in the Fantastic Four, right? And you're bringing in the Fantastic Four based off of the new movie that's getting ready to come out next year, right? Well, they barely had time to be established, right? So now you're pulling what DC did, right? You're trying to bring a Justice League movie out without establishing the character base, and people fucking hated that.
Yeah, they didn't even have did Aquaman have a movie before they brought him into Justice League? I mean, Cyborg didn't have a movie at all, which was a travesty in itself. I love that character. But it's like, I agree with you. Like, you can't do that. You have to establish the characters. And again, it's like 30 characters. Oh, that includes ones that are dead, right? Like we said, like Tony Stark and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're going to bring him back as alternate versions. Okay. Are you going to explain that? Or is it just, one line of dialogue? It's the so-and-so machine that...
Nope, it's Beyonder. He just went to a different universe. This isn't your Tony Stark.
Right. I mean, it's so cheap. It's just fucking cheap. It may be the reality in the comics.
It's lazy writing.
It may be the actual reality of what actually occurs in the comic books, but man, does it just feel like, okay, I guess so. I guess that's what we're doing. Well, it's in the comics. I guess so. Well, I guess so. That doesn't mean I have to agree with it and like it. I still think it's dumb.
It leaves a lot to be desired from the fans, right? Especially,
who knows?
I hold DC or I hold Marvel in higher regard to this standard because you started out so well, right? You started out with such a well-established universe. Now I feel like you're just scrambling. Yeah, I know, right? I don't need. I don't like to admit it, but I can give credit where credit's due, right? You started out with a very well-established universe. You did things right, and now you're just it's Hail Marys and it's fucking hot potato. Like, here, take this. Oh God, this movie's gonna detonate on me. Like we're not gonna get any sales.
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts on it. Again, guys, this is all rumors. This is not in stone. It's just stuff swirling out there on it. So we're just gonna kind of put it through the ringer here on the channel. What do you guys think about it? I think it's a stupid thing to try and fit all this into 2 movies. And as I've discussed through this video, that there's not enough time in between End Wars and this movie that to give credence for it. Nor is there enough.
Endgame.
What did I say?
End Wars.
Jesus. Sorry, it has been a long week. Okay, guys.
I get it.
Cut me some slack here. But there's there's not enough time to build that rapport leading up to quote unquote a Secret Wars phase. I just don't think they're going to do that either. At least that's not what the report is. So I don't know. I just think it's a no-win situation for them. But who knows? Maybe it'll be fucking amazing. Doubt it, but we'll see.
Mine, real quick, is I feel like you took this many movies to get to Endgame, and it was great. Secret Wars is like almost infinite times more important than that in the comics, and you're going to give it basically 4 more movies since Endgame, and like, oh, Spider-Man, we got this, we got Ant-Man, we got all these no name, and then we're going to try to do a Kang Dynasty
Well-
/ then Secret Wars, you're reaching, man. Like that is
And quite
too
frankly-
ballsy.
Those movies might as well not exist because they didn't add anything to the story going into this, right? They could have been movies about fuck all. It doesn't even matter.
Deadpool is going to add more to the Secret Wars timeline than any of those
Yes.
movies did, right? And maybe that's your saving grace. I hope so, because it's going to. I think that movie's. I'm actually excited for the movie, so I think that's going to be awesome. I'm excited where they have gone with X-Men '97. Maybe this is a turnaround phase, and I hope so, because guys, just because we're a DC channel and I do love Superman and all of that, and how Mantis feels, doesn't mean we don't appreciate and like and even love Marvel. You know, it's still great, or it used to be, and it could be again. So,
Yeah.
let us know down in the comments what you feel. Like, are you excited? Do you think maybe Secret Wars is a little too ambitious in its current phase? Do you think we're insane? Because we have not
Is
been
it a house of
tested.
cards?
We have not been
Is it a house
tested.
of
We could be insane.
No.
Okay.
Could totally be.
If you have made it with us this far, I want better for you. No. Consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. He's going to show you where, right down there at his crotch. Okay.
Yep, right here. Right
yeah.
here.
So that extended like button, if you want to click on that and do whatever you want to with that. And then, like I said, subscribe to the channel. I want to take this moment here to thank everybody who has been subscribed, as well as all of our newest subscribers. We do appreciate it. You guys are the reason we do this. We hope you enjoy it. And as long as you keep subscribing, we will keep putting out content that we do for you. We don't make money off of this.
Yep, just for you guys. My mom doesn't even watch this channel.
She should. She's hot.
Again.
We aren't going to get into it again. We will off camera, but on camera. All right, guys. That is going to wrap it up for it here at You, Me, and DC. Until the next time, we will see you then.
Later.